What's going on, guys? So apparently Seth Rollins is not happy with WWE. What? Not joking. You know, we all knew about this. We saw the little breadcrumbs through interviews and things he said about Cody Rhodes and so on and so forth that led up to the idea that Seth Rollins is not really happy. Even you see with this video right here, it shows when he's upset with WWE when they changed the script at the Raw after WrestleMania. So this isn't new, but when I see this happen, I don't get, I don't worry about this. I don't hit the panic button because a lot of us, we work at a job, and if you work there long enough, at some point you're going to get frustrated about the way things are ran, and you're going to get tired about things happening. And that's just a natural thing. That's natural about working for any place. But are these things enough for him to not want to be here anymore? We'll find out. Now, before we get started, go ahead, hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it. Let's get into this.
Seth Rollins might not be happy with WWE, and it's not just because of his segment from last week's episode of Raw that was cut during the commercial break. He seemed legitimately upset about that, but it may be deeper than just that, and it involves Cody Rhodes. It all started a few weeks ago when Cody Rhodes said in an interview that he almost got into a fist fight with Seth Rollins backstage. This is what he said. Let's roll that footage.
I almost would say I like less people than I dislike, and in terms of a backstage setting, it's the competition that exists in wrestling. You see that suspension of disbelief on screen, but backstage it is very, very real in terms of the competition. Who's going to be on top? For example, who's going to headline WrestleMania? So when this year it being Roman Reigns and myself, it doesn't garner a lot of friends. I think Seth Rollins is the closest I've ever had to backstage that turning into a fist fight in front of all our peers and upper management, but it didn't happen. Him and I absolutely can't stand one another. I'd probably try and rip his eyes out and have a situation like DDP and Scott Steiner here.
When I first heard about that, I thought it was just Cody Rhodes selling the story between him and Seth Rollins, because Cody is that type of guy. He loves to keep kayfabe alive at all costs.
I thought so too.
Then Seth Rollins was asked about it during an interview with ESPN, and he went into more details about it. It sounds like there's actually beef between these two WWE stars. This is what Seth Rollins said when asked about that fight.
Cody Rhodes made some headlines a couple weeks ago saying that you guys almost got into a fist fight. I mean, what's the state of your relationship with Cody?
I can't get into too many details on that. There's a level of truth to that, but I mean, look, the bottom line is I feel, based on my body of work and what I've contributed to this company over the course of the last decade, really, I should be in that position, right? I'm the one who has held it down while he drifted off and went and did his own thing. Respect to him for that, great. He drifted off, did his own thing. I'm the one who held it down. When everybody got hurt or did something else or went off or took part-time schedules or wanted less and wanted to do less and ask for more or wanted to go somewhere else because they weren't happy, you don't think there's been plenty of times when I haven't been happy or plenty of times when I haven't felt like I've been on the short end of the stick? There's tons of stories I could tell about that, but I don't. I keep it to myself. I put my head down. I work hard. I vouch for this company. I vouch for this place. And I feel like what he's getting is not, I'm just not entirely comfortable with it. And I don't know any other way to put it than that. And I think that just creates some natural friction between the two of us. And so, when tempers flare. You know how it goes sometimes. So yeah, there's a little truth to that, but I can't get into too many details. But,
and I don't really want to. I just have to ask the question. You know what I'm saying?
It's there's some level of mutual respect. There has to be in this industry, but at the same time, there's animosity as well.
Yeah. This is
you know what? I completely understand where Seth is coming from. First and foremost, I hope that these guys would put water under a bridge and just kind of mend it and, fix whatever's going on behind the scenes. I'm not entirely sure what exactly happened or how it happened, but hopefully they'll figure it out and fix it. I mean, the more talent we have at WWE, the better the in-ring situation is. I don't know about booking, but as far as that goes. Now, about what Seth Rollins has said, I understand his frustration, because can you imagine working for a job for a decade, a little bit more? You come in on days you're not supposed to be there. They call you in while you have family events. You come in, you get your teeth pulled, and you come in to work looking like a chipmunk, but you still do it for your love for the company. And because you're working hard every single day, working long hours, everything that you can do to help that company. And, because you love it and you also want to get promoted into that managerial role day after day. They can rely on you every single time. You hurt, you go away, you come back, you put your all into everything. You win all these different awards, employee of the month, employee of the year. And you have this one guy who who's pretty good, and he quits. And then he comes back, years later. And then all of a sudden, within the first 6 months, he gets that managerial role that you wanted this entire time to help better your family or, it makes it feel good for yourself. And he just comes in and gets it just like that. So that can be very, very frustrating. I can completely understand where he's coming from with that. And also he did say he vouched for the company, because remember the time that WWE was doing terrible, when Raw was at its all-time worst consecutively. Week after week after week, Seth Rollins went online, defended the company against trolls, against fans, against people of other promotions, left and right, as if WWE was his own child. He did that for him, for the company, to be a leader of the company. So I completely understand where he's coming from for that, and I'm hoping that they will give him a main event match at WrestleMania, because that's the only thing he really hasn't done. Is had a main event. Even when he was at WrestleMania with the Universal title match against Brock Lesnar, that was the opening match. He didn't even get a main event that year. So I get it, but I will also say this. Unfortunately, the company that Seth Rollins worked for, that is the nature of the beast. It's not always about who's the biggest workhorse. It isn't always about who puts their all into the company. It is about who they decide to pick or who they feel is the hottest in the moment to draw more people to watch that match. As we said here, Cody Rhodes, like, they signed him on, they paid him a lot of money. They didn't do that to have him sit on the back burner. They had it to push him to WrestleMania. They were going to do it regardless of his injury or whatever, and they did that. And that's the reason why they dropped so much money. Whether it was Cody Rhodes or if they signed Kenny Omega, it would have been the exact same thing. And WWE, a lot of their stuff, they push people in positions who a lot of us will feel like they don't deserve to be there. They're not great in the ring. They're not even here all the time. For example, Brock Lesnar, for a long time, he's been holding belts for a long time and barely been on TV, barely had any hours, but because WWE felt like that he was a money maker, because he had the biggest draw, people would hate watch him, they put him in that position. So it's not always about being the workhorse every single time. And I can name a couple of wrestlers, who never had even 10% of the accolades, of the decoration to their career as Seth Rollins has had, who have also been workhorses, who've also been talented. Like, he's had the WWE Universal title twice. Finn Balor's had it one time, got injured, and never saw it again. Seth Rollins had the WWE Heavyweight Championship twice. He had the Tag Team Championship multiple times. The US Championship, the list goes on and on. Grand Slam, everything. And most people haven't even had a little bit. Like, one of the main people I can think of is Cesaro. And he hasn't even had not even 1% of what he deserves as far as the work he put into the ring, as far as him being a workhorse, as far as him staying healthy, all those different things. There's so many different wrestlers who are in that position. Now, it's very unfortunate. I'm not saying it's right, but unfortunately, that's just the nature of the business. And Seth Rollins right now, as far as his career, he's had a really decorated career. But I can understand his frustration. I'm sorry I was long-winded about that, but I understand his frustration. But at the end of the day, if he retired today, he's definitely going to the Hall of Fame, and he's had a better career than a lot of people have had in the history of WWE, in my personal opinion, especially when it comes to championships and things like that.
It's starting to sound more and more serious as these videos unfold. It only got worse when Becky Lynch started to also talk about how she didn't like how Cody Rhodes was given that main event spot at WrestleMania 39 instead of her husband. It appears that Seth Rollins has made these same complaints to his wife. Let's take a listen to what Becky Lynch said on the Stephen A. Smith podcast.
Cody has had a lot of history with my husband. The main event of WrestleMania, it's gonna be big. I don't know that Cody's ready for it yet.
Says a lot.
I don't know that Cody's ready for it yet.
He was ready, though.
Should have been Seth Rollins in that spot. I wonder if he should have been walking out after everything he's done for the past several years, his whole career. Damn it, been carrying this company on his back. Cody walked away, came back, is getting it all. Maybe that should have been Seth Rollins.
I'm seriously.
Yeah, she's gonna vouch for her husband, but one thing I will say about Becky, she's been consistent about not liking the idea of someone barely being there and getting a main spot. She said the same thing about Logan Paul, and I thought at first, I'm like, okay, maybe it's kayfabe, but I really believe that the both of them really believe that if you barely are there, you should not be getting any spots in WrestleMania. If you haven't put the time in, you should not. And I completely understand that. If someone's been working hard for a long time and putting their blood, sweat, and tears into something, they should be rewarded for what they did. But unfortunately, again, it's an entertainment business, so it doesn't work that way all the time.
He's starting to believe that Seth Rollins actually does not like Cody Rhodes. More than that, it sounds like he's becoming more frustrated with WWE and his placement in the company. Seth Rollins has been floating around in random feuds in the middle of the card. The Visionary has not been the world champion for a few years now. 2019 was the last time he held one of those belts. To be fair, Roman Reigns has been the number one guy for some time now.
And he's had the belt.
That is also something else that seems to be bothering Seth Rollins. In an interview with Ariel Helwani, he opened up about not being the guy. Let's show that clip.
I just feel like in some ways, I've never gotten my just due. There's always I've never been the guy, you know? I've never been the one on the marquee at WrestleMania. It was John, it was Roman. In some regards, when I was at Ring of Honor, it was Nigel or it was Brian. And I was always the guy
that is true.
On the come up or on the underneath, or I was kind of the second or the next big thing type thing, you know? And that always just eats at me. It eats at me so much. And so I don't know where that competitive spark comes from, but it drives me insane.
To me, Seth Rollins was the guy in 2015 during that WWE Championship run, but aside from that, he's never really been on the top of the mountain. He's still been up there as the number 2 guy for such a long time, but he's never been number 1.
It sounds like it's just like he said, it's competitive. He has this competitive spirit where he has to be the best at what he does, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think as frustrated as he sound about WWE, as far as how they've been handling him in the past couple years or the past decade, if that is the case, the way he's handled it has been pretty professional, in my personal opinion. So and by him saying, going back when he was in the Indies and things like that, it sounds like his frustration is, like he said, not feeling like he's number 1 for a long time. So again, I don't think it has anything to do with Cody Rhodes himself. Now, I don't know if Cody said anything backstage to disrespect Seth Rollins. That's a whole different story if that is the case. I don't want to assume the Super Saiyan Pastor did that, but Seth Rollins seems like he has a issue just the way he's been booked his entire career. But
now with Cody Rhodes in the company, I think he drops to number 3. As you can see, Seth Rollins is unhappy with WWE. Maybe unhappy is too much of a strong word, but he does seem somewhat bothered. And WWE cannot afford to lose someone like Seth Rollins.
They can't, though.
They spent an entire decade building him up. You cannot lose an investment like that. Therefore, WWE needs to do something to keep him happy. And he's not the only one who feels this type of way. Drew McIntyre reportedly is also unhappy and doesn't want to re-sign. It could be that new guys like Gunther and Cody Rhodes are coming in and taking their spots and their time on TV. Anyways, WWE needs to start focusing on retaining Seth Rollins, and one way of doing that is by maybe giving him a WrestleMania main event with Roman Reigns next year in Philly. It's what Seth Rollins said he wants. Let's roll that footage.
We fast forward 1 year. What's the ideal matchup for you? WrestleMania 40.
God, there's a few of them out there, man. I mean, realistically, Roman Reigns is someone that I have only wrestled on pay-per-view and singles matches twice.
Really?
Yeah. And you look at a lot of the other, say, long-term rivalries, Rock Austin, they did 3 Mania matches themselves, 3 of them, 2 of them main events, I think.
Yeah.
You look at Cena and Orton, and they had 1 million, even Cena and Edge. And I have never had that kind of definitive, put the stamp on it match with Roman.
Seth Rollins isn't the only one who wants to see Rollins versus Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Roman Reigns would agree. In an interview with ESPN, this is what Roman said about that potential main event match.
You talked about Seth Rollins a little bit earlier. You said that's the one thing we agree on. I asked him the same question. I said, if you could fight one guy in WrestleMania and main event it, who would it be? He said Roman Reigns. He said he would love to fight you. He said because he wasn't sure if you guys are very main evented very rarely against each other, never at WrestleMania. Who would it be for you, Roman?
I think Seth's a good answer. I think we have a lot of open-ended history. I think there's a lot of competitive brotherhood there. To where there is an estranged love due to our past history. There's always been and this is just Seth. There's always been a underlying, I wouldn't say animosity, but friction to where we can easily butt heads. And that's caused us, as we've moved further away from the Shield, to really kind of, you know, plant our feet on the side of the line that we've drawn in the sand, you know. And I'm not gonna say we both want the same thing, because it's very clear he wants what I have.
Yeah.
I have everything that he's just. This is a guy who's wanted it his whole life. I wanted to play football. There was a lot of things I wanted to do, but I couldn't run away from this business. This is all he's ever wanted to do, and I'm just better than him. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lie here. I'm just better than him.
So what do you think? Should WWE book Seth Rollins to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns next year at WrestleMania 40, or should it still be Cody? Or is this all an elaborate work from Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns planting the seeds for next year's WrestleMania triple threat match in the main event for both titles? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you.
That would be good. I would love to see a triple threat match between the three of them. You know, I know most of us would want Cody to win that championship before the next WrestleMania, but if that is the case, if that's what they need to do to get Seth Rollins in that main event, I would love to see that, man, because he really does need to be rewarded. In spite of everything I've said about the company, the nature of the beast of the company, which is all true, but I would love to see Seth Rollins be rewarded for everything he's done, man, because he has, at least for the mid-card in the past year and a half, especially on Raw, he's held that thing on his back. And outside of that, he's held the company on his back outside of this whole entire Roman Reigns bloodline thing. Even when people didn't like Roman Reigns, even when people didn't like SmackDown or Raw and they thought it was terrible, one thing you couldn't deny is that Seth Rollins was going to put on a great match every single time he got a chance to. So I would love to see that happen for him. And I understand where he's coming from. He has that competitive spirit and it can't go away. I have that here and there, but there's certain people who will handle that competitive spirit a little different. Like for me, I kind of compete with the things that I've done before, not necessarily with other people, but I can understand how the person that has that same spirit that has it against other people because they can't get to where they need to go, where that can be very frustrating. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for listening to me talk for so long between the video and stopping it. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys. I hope you guys had a good day. Salute. Peace. Have a good day.